Welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. So glad that you could spend some of your day with me today. Today we have a great show. We're going to talk about television, and I'm going to highlight a place where I tape my show. It's called the Valley Shore Community Television Studio, which is based at the Shops at Water's Edge at the Water's Edge Resort in Westbrook, Connecticut. And I have the pleasure of having Chris Morgan, the Public Access Coordinator, as my guest today. And Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Really
Pleasure
appreciate
to be here.
it. Yeah, I know I'm so used to seeing you elsewhere in the building in the control room, and now you're here.
Yeah, I'm usually on the other side of the camera.
How do you feel being a guest?
A little nervous. I'm not. This isn't my forte. Isn't really being on camera, although I've done it before.
Why don't we start with you? Let's tell the viewer about you. What's your backstory?
So, well, my background is in television production. I first kind of caught the video production bug in actually who's in the control room. Chuck Lewis was the TV production teacher at Haddam Killingworth High School, and I went to HK as well as Christy did in the control room. And I grew up watching Channel 18, the educational access station. That's our sister station. And I remember watching things like the Holiday Show and the HKTV News, and I always wanted to get involved with that. So when I got to high school, I had the privilege of being able to take that as a class with Mr. Lewis, and the rest is kind of history as far as being involved with video production ever since.
Tell me about HK. Did they have a studio there? What was it like?
They do. It's a very similar facility to this, actually. It's so we have two channels that serve public educational and government access for this region, and we serve the Comcast Clinton franchise area, which is 9 towns in lower Middlesex County. So we're here in Westbrook. VSCTV is the public channel, and then Channel 18, which is head end is at Haddam Killingworth High School, is the educational access channel. But HK has had, as long as I have ever known, a video production program that educates high school students on the basics of video production, whether it's news, filmmaking, music videos, documentaries, and it's been a very storied program and an award-winning program for many, many years.
And is it still there in the school today?
Oh, sure. Yep, absolutely. It's Chuck retired a year ago, and this is so the teacher. There is a new teacher that replaced Chuck, and she's kind of carrying the torch on to continue the program forward, and has done a great job so far. She one of the big challenges, especially for the new teacher, was to produce the holiday show last year, which I thought went pretty well. Went very well, of course. And they raised over $10,000 for Little Compassion, which runs the Nest Coffee House in Deep River for special needs students, and they provide employment and training and all kinds of programs for special education.
When you were in high school and kind of got the bug that you wanted to be in television production, did it move on with you into college and into adulthood?
Oh yeah, for sure. After high school, I went to Western New England University in Springfield, Massachusetts, and majored in communications and video production. While I was there, I was involved with the student TV station there, Golden Bear Television. They're the Golden Bears, their mascot. And I had the privilege to intern with WGBY, which is the PBS affiliate for Springfield. It's kind of like CPTV, but for Springfield. CPTV is Hartford's PBS station. And they do a lot of local content at Channel 57. And so I learned a lot about live studio production, a little, progressing more from what I learned in college and in high school. And this was live on, broadcast television. We did a lot of segment production for a show called Making It Here, which spotlighted a lot of local artisans and local manufacturers and local businesses and all kinds of attractions in Western Massachusetts and Northern Connecticut, actually. I remember doing a segment at the Mark Twain House. We did one on a square dancing group in Belchertown, Massachusetts. There was one on maple sugaring, which we kind of did again here at Valley Shore Community News with Bushy Hill. So it's a lot of neat things. I love the idea of telling people stories and the local aspect of it, keeping it hyper local to where it is. I mean, Springfield is a very small media market, so it's almost like everybody knows everybody. It's probably half the size of Hartford, maybe even smaller. As a market, because once you get into the Berkshires, it's very, very rural. So they serve that whole, pretty much west of like Sturbridge, all the way to the New York border is really their area. So after college, Actually, while I was still in college, I got another internship with the Connecticut network, CTN, which is kind of like C-SPAN, but for the state of Connecticut. So they cover the state Senate, the state House of Representatives, the governor, the Supreme Court, and I interned there for a year and then was hired there full time and worked there for about a year. And then this opportunity presented itself with Chuck Lewis, starting up Valley Shore Community Television to take over what was the public access channel run by Comcast at the time. Comcast was in and they've done this with other stations across the state and the Northeast. They had a trend of handing them off to a nonprofit that can basically, and we like to think that we can do a better job because we're so small, we're very local, we only exist to serve public access for this area. So that's our only focus. We're not, selling cable and internet and everything else as well. So I'm not knocking Comcast in any way. They've been a fantastic partner to us over the years. They've carried our channel right from day one. So we've started in July of 2013 and only gone and grown since then.
What is public access?
That's a good question. So public access exists actually as part of the regulations of cable television. So there are laws in place that I think were established in the early 80s, although I'm not entirely sure, that require a cable company, when they serve a specific region, they have to provide public, educational, and government access channels to serve the public. And it's in exchange for the use of the public rights of way for their wires. So it's one of the, I would hate to use the word give back, but it's one of the things that they are required to do in exchange for the use of public rights of way so they can put all their utilities on the street. So public access can be used for anybody who lives or works in the towns that the cable franchise serves. So in our case, we serve 9 towns. It's Durham, Haddam, Killingworth, Chester, Deep River, Essex, Old Saybrook, Westbrook, and Clinton. So we have a very large geographic area, but they're all very small towns. So I think altogether we serve less than about 70,000 residents, somewhere in that neck of the woods. Of course, it doesn't include summer residents because we serve a lot of shoreline towns that double or triple in size in the summer. But so basically, public access is the home for basically any dissemination of views. It could be whether it's, we have a lot of religious content, we have a lot of entertainment, local news, political, public affairs. We work a lot with nonprofits, and we work a lot with local schools, including HK. Valley Regional has a great TV production program, so we partner with a lot of the schools. We cover high school sports, concerts, and everything in between.
Do you know who is watching? I understand from my point of view it was 9 towns, about 22,000 households. Would I be right in saying that? I know you said something.
I think so, yeah. I'm not, that number changes month to month depending on how many people subscribe to cable, but I don't know the exact numbers, but it's somewhere around there, I would say.
Would you be able to know who's watching a particular show?
We don't have a way to track who's actually watching on cable, but we do have a way to track on our website. So our signals can be viewed on Comcast Clinton, so it's only those 9 towns I mentioned on the Comcast system. If you have Frontier TV, it's actually statewide throughout the entire state of Connecticut. And on Comcast, I should mention, we're channel 19. On Frontier, we're channel 6089, if you can find us in the 6,000 tier, or on our website. So, and our website is actually the only place to watch us in high definition. So this show is produced in full HD. We have high definition cameras. Our whole studio is HD end to end. Unfortunately on cable, both on Comcast and Frontier, it's still standard definition, but on our website you can watch in high def, both on demand and live. And we're actually just introducing, and we'll premiere this on your show because we haven't really talked about it to the masses yet, but our signal will now be available on Apple TV and Roku going forward. We're still working on the details of that app, but it is live, but it's not quite the way we want it to launch yet. But minor details.
We're going to talk about that information
Sure.
in just a second. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
With newspapers and media outlets merging all over the country, communities are losing their local voice.
There's so much going on in the community that I think doesn't really, there's a lot of folks who are unaware of it. And I think things like this can bring it out into the community and in that way kind of bring the community together.
Information to our residents is the key to good governance. And with the national media and local media not often covering us, this is an excellent opportunity for us constantly to communicate with our constituents and also to have them communicate with us.
The best outcomes will be achieved through a community-based organization that grows its operation and scale by means of locally produced programming.
All of our content is volunteer produced, so we do shows from talk shows to music shows, working with high schools.
VSCTV is committed to ensuring that the investment made to secure these powerful tools will pay great dividends in the community for many, many years.
Welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, and my guest continues to be Chris Morgan, the Public Access Coordinator for the Valley Shore Television Center, based here at the Shops at Water's Edge in Water's Edge in Westbrook, Connecticut. And Chris, thanks again for being my guest.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Why don't we talk about what's happened? There are new things that have been happening at the studio.
Yeah, so we've had probably the busiest summer we've ever had in the 7 years that we've been open. We were very fortunate back in the fall to be able to apply and receive a grant from the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. So it's the state of Connecticut, and it's called PEGpedia, and don't ask me what that acronym stands for because I can't remember all of them, but PEG is obviously Public Educational and Government Access. And the program exists to provide capital funding for capital improvements for public access channels and educational institutions like public schools. I know some schools have built video production facilities, music production facilities using those funds. So the grant we received enabled us to upgrade our automation system for the channel. So we have prior to the upgrades, we had a system that would play out all of your shows on the channel when we schedule them to play. And then for our web presence, we had a completely separate system. So we basically did everything twice to an extent, not completely. So the new system allows us to merge those two together. So this new system will allow us to schedule all the shows on the channels that you can watch on cable, Comcast and Frontier. It handles our video on demand and our live streaming on the web, and it integrates with smart TVs like Apple TV and Roku. So we're really trying to progress forward and be where viewers are. Because as we move farther in the technological world, everything's going towards streaming. And so we want to be there too, where all the viewers are. Cord cutting has become a trend in the industry, and people trying to trim their cable bills and everything, which does affect our funding in the long run. But having our signals on streaming platforms and smart TV apps is really how we can stay in tune with the viewers that we have and try to build more.
Now, for somebody like myself and other people, I don't understand some of the things that you just mentioned. The streaming part, what does that mean?
So streaming is getting your signal, getting your content through the internet as opposed to from cable or satellite or an antenna. I don't want to go into too much of the technical aspects of it, but streaming things like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube are all different streaming platforms that have become popular over the last 10 years or so. And a lot of people are choosing that over cable, but that seems to be the trend going forward. So we want to make sure that we're still available to folks that may not have cable as well.
What does the future look like for this studio?
Hopefully bright. I think we've never really looked back. We keep looking forward and trying to keep moving forward and innovating different ways to produce content, stay on the cutting edge of technology, just keeping everything going forward pretty much.
Now, I found this studio located in an ad in the Harbor News. If you wanted to produce your own TV show or if you wanted to be a volunteer, to contact this studio to be able to do that. Are you looking for TV shows or producers and volunteers? Absolutely. We're always looking for more volunteers, both to produce shows and to help crew shows. Like yourself, you started as behind the scenes and production crew and started this show this summer. So we're always looking for more ideas and more volunteers for all kinds of different shows. What are some of the shows that you highlight right now? Well, in addition to your show, some of the ones that regularly tape here are Pete Mazzetti's show,
who's actually taping tonight with, and it will actually air after this show in the schedule with Congressman Courtney. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in listening to the congressman. That's about a half hour after this show ends. We have shows like Sure Things, which is produced by Mary Polchaninoff, a Westbrook resident that talks about all kinds of different organizations in the community. She's done shows with the Westbrook Library, Literacy Volunteers, Valley Shore, the Shoreline Soup Kitchen and Pantries, and the Westbrook Senior Center. And then Shoreline Music Monthly spotlights a lot of local musicians, a lot of singer-songwriters.
In the cheap seats, 'cause I'm the fiddler's wife. I wanted dinner and romance, but I wound up here tonight. Oh, he gets all the glory, it's him they idolize. I just lug the instruments and sell the merchandise. Oh, all the women love him and his sexy violin.
I know that's one of our older shows that started off when we opened 7 years ago with Mark Koschwitz, and I had no idea before Mark started taping that show the amount of talent that was on the Shoreline. I had no idea there was so much musical talent in our local area, and I've continued to be impressed with everybody that comes in and performs on that show.
I have worked as a camerawoman for on and off for a year and a half and seen the quality productions that have been done here. And I had Mark as a guest, and I had Frank Crowley as a guest, who does the poetry show.
Oh yeah.
And do you foresee other shows coming of different genres in the future?
Oh, I would hope so. It's hard to predict like what kinds of shows are going to come in, I mean, so to speak, off the street. I mean, when we have folks that come in with ideas, I would not have assumed we'd get a show that spotlighted poetry, for example, with Frank Crowley. But it's become a 3-year series that continues to be in production now. Like I said before, I didn't realize we'd had so much local musical talent here on the Shoreline until Shoreline Music Monthly was produced by Mark Koschwitz. One other one that I really enjoy because I like history is Marian Pleva's show called Looking Back. Mm-hmm. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, we did a show with Devin Carney, who's a local state representative from Old Saybrook, I believe. And his grandfather was the actor Art Carney and lived here in Westbrook for many years. And so this was the story of his grandfather, Art Carney. It was really interesting. Another one that I had no idea happened down here was the story of Eleanor Roosevelt in Westbrook. She spent a great deal of time at the property that's now the Stuart McKinney Wildlife Refuge, and I had no idea. I mean, where would you hear a story like that? It's not like you're not going to find it in a history textbook. It's all a local residents' experience and telling their story.
How did you find this studio space? This is unique, being at the Shops at Water's Edge.
Yeah, I'm not the one that actually selected this. It was Chuck. We were looking for a location to locate our new studio, and this facility came up. It was actually a clothing store before we moved in, so a lot of it had to be renovated. It was all one room, so we had builders come in and put the walls in and build out the control room, and we had to wire it to be a TV studio with a lighting grid and the cameras and soundproofing and all that neat things, that goes into building a production facility. So I think it came out great. I'm very proud to work here every day and operate everything in this building.
Where did all of the machinery come from? It seems to be as if I'm at Channel 3 or Channel 8, the quality's so exceptional.
Sure, yeah. So, actually, a lot of the original equipment that we have here, some of it came from the old facility at Comcast. When they handed over the keys to the studio, so to speak, they did offer up the existing equipment if we needed equipment to get us started. But like the grant I mentioned this past year, we actually started off with another PEGpedia grant that helped buy the cameras that we're using here, the video switcher, and a lot of the initial equipment that got us going 7 years ago was grant funded.
And then what you have done right now, do you foresee more upgrades happening as time moves on? Do you need to do more?
That's always a loaded question. I mean, there's always things you can upgrade, but I mean, we're in a great position now thanks to the grant that we just received. And one of the things we haven't even talked about was upgrading our ability to produce live content out in the field, which is really going to expand what we're able to do going forward. So I think we're good on upgrades for now because it's been a very busy summer, but we always try to stay with as current technology as we can.
Talk about location shooting. What happens for somebody to be able to do that?
Sure. So we have cameras that can be signed out for production on location. We have they're a regular ENG style camera, like a news camera. And we do training workshops here. We generally break down training into 3 different workshops. We do a studio training workshop that operates the facility we're using now. We do a field camera training, which are the cameras that you can sign out. And then the third one is a little bit longer, it's digital editing. So we try to give people the basics of editing using Adobe Creative Suite or Creative Cloud. And editing, I mean, that could be a semester-long college class. So we try to get people's creative juices going and figure out what they can do using our facility, and then we'll kind of go into more specifics when they have an idea that they want to bring to fruition.
Now, when they go through the training process, are they ready to be able to take the machinery out? What are they allowed to go film?
Yeah, so I mean, there really aren't any restrictions as to, well, there are some, but it's really what people want to make of it. It's your own ideas for a show. We've had people sign out cameras to record town meetings. We've had people record their son or daughter's varsity soccer game. Different spotlights in the community, whether it's a public service announcement relating to the pandemic. We've had all kinds of different things. We've had students do news reports, both for class and then for community service hours. But I mean, there's things that you can't do, like fundraisers, lotteries, things like that. We try to keep, I don't need to go into a lot of that stuff, but for the most part, the possibilities are endless.
Speaking of the pandemic, has it affected the studio and the staff?
Fortunately, not in the health regards.
Yeah.
We've all, knock on wood, we've all stayed healthy and happy and everything. But we did close down back in the spring, as did everybody else. So we reopened to the public on June 1st and trying to keep everybody 6 feet apart like we are, and keeping people here in the studio to 2 people on the set, because you can't tell by watching the TV, but we're the only people in the building right now without masks on because we're socially distant and only 2 of us here in the studio. So we've set down certain rules like that, but we have definitely increased the amount of production we've done because of the pandemic. We've picked up a lot of town meetings that can't otherwise be viewed in person. Back in March and April, we broadcast, I think, 4 or 5 public hearings regarding municipal budgets, because towns were tasked with, I mean, the spring is budget season for a lot of municipalities, and they would generally have a big public hearing to say, you know, gee, you should spend more money on roads, or I think we ought to cut the school budget or something. You know, people have all different ideas, and so they didn't have that opportunity in person this year. So by broadcasting it here on VSCTV, we kind of gave people a way to stay in touch with what's going on at Town Hall, which I think was a huge help to a lot of residents and the elected officials. And of course, we've had shows like yours sign on, so we had new shows come to us, and then all the sort of the pent-up demand while we were closed, we've tried to fit in as many tapings as we can all summer, on top of our upgrades. So we've definitely been busy.
Tell me about the website. What will people find when they go there?
Yeah, so I am excited about our new website, especially the video on demand capability. So our new website allows all of the local shows like yours to be viewed on demand on your computer, your iPhone or Android or Apple TV and Roku. But one of the things that's really neat about it is it actually integrates quite nicely with municipal meetings. We now have the ability to, say we're posting a video from the Clinton Town Council as an example. We can now post the video of the town meeting and have the agenda right next to the page. You can follow along. You can be able to follow all the different sections of the meeting, and say you only really want to see agenda item number 6. You can fast forward and find exactly what you're looking for. But the fact that it integrates with our existing playback system is taking a lot of it makes it a lot quicker for us, that's for sure.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here today. We have run out of time.
It goes by so quick.
I know it does. So everyone, please tune in to Channel 19 on Comcast, as well as Frontier 6089. And we've been talking about the Valley Shore Community Television based at the shops at Water's Edge and Water's Edge, Connecticut. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.